Honestly, the way content creation works is that there's an aspect of it which is not sustainable. I don't think it is the kind of career where you should tie yourself down to that occupation for your whole life. It can get pretty gruesome. It can burn you out a bit. I've made peace with it in terms of I've kept like a deadline for myself, which is roughly another 9-10 years. I feel I'm at half time right now. I'm only going to do this for like another 9-10 years, and I really enjoy it. That's the other aspect of it. So there's really high highs and really low lows. Also, I think in terms of content creation, the way it's different from journalism is that the kind of content a journalist has to go about is very current affairs related, is very geopolitically related, etc., etc. Like it's about the news. For us, I personally feel every content creator has their own domains that they tackle. My domain is emotions rather than like just current affairs. So even if we're doing a political podcast, if we're doing like a podcast related to geopolitics, I'll always try to tie it with human psychology and human emotion. So this sauce can spread itself to any domain. I think that's the fundamental difference for me. But in saying that, someone like Nitish Rajput, Dhruv Rathi, Think School, all these guys, they're more inclined to the current affairs side of things. So every content creator has their own style of going about it. I do believe it's a much more casual job than journalism. There is a responsibility attached, but it's far lesser than what the responsibility related to journalism is about.
I find it fascinating that you're already decided कि मैं इतने देर तक इतना करूँगा. That one point I want to ask you about. And the second, you said the highs are high and the lows are low. What was the low point or the lowest point that you felt, that what am I doing? Why am I doing this?
Definitely the start. I think that was one very big low point because 9 years ago, there was no concept of content creation in the world. So to go about the journey alone, that was a low. The other forms of lows are not the public trolling, online hate one gets. That's what one would assume from the outside looking in. It does affect content creators, but again, every content creator is very different from, every content creator is different. So for me personally, the lows are always synonymous with the lows that we face in terms of engagement. Primarily because I'm also paying a lot of salaries, and we end up getting some kind of a slight kind of financial pressure if the views and engagement goes low. The way I've always looked at content creation is as a business first. So for me, my low moments are always that one moment or maybe 2 moments in a year where we see a little bit of a drop in engagement. Often it's not in our hands. Sometimes just, for example, January, every year, like the engagement drops. Sometimes July, every year the engagement drops. This is something we've seen over the last 9 years. And I know this by this point, but every time we see a slightly less amount of engagement, it does affect you on a psychological level, even now. And that's something I'm grappling with even 9 years in, which is why I think the solution I've built out for myself is what I spoke about prior to this. In terms of whenever you feel an emotional spike, just turn it into content, focus on the process, do it for yourself first and foremost. Because there's a very big luck factor in this job as well. For example, just with podcasting, you keep getting better with every podcast. You're working hard, you're giving 100%. But at the end of the day, you're only going to get a Dr. Jaishankar once on your show. You're only going to get a John Abraham once on your show. You're only going to get a Kohli once on your show. So that's not in my hands. We've built out an infrastructure, we've built out a machinery, but there's a very, very big luck factor at play. So you are governed a lot by factors that are not in your control. That is the lack of ease for me in this occupation. I feel it's quite unstable, it's quite volatile. All one can do is build infrastructure and be ready for the good moments.
Click here to watch the full episode.